before they take the Pfizer vaccine. Now, I didn't really get the second in the AstraZeneca one, whether that one has anything people can react to. So essentially, for any of the things that have been identified that people can react to, is there a way to first test them before they decide which of the vaccines they will get? Thank you.
That's an important question. Thank you for asking. So I'll talk about what is PEG. So PEG is a polyethylene glycol from a known group of allergens commonly found in medicines and household goods and cosmetics. People that are allergic to it would know because they usually would have had an anaphylactic reaction to one medication or another. To the best of my knowledge, I'm not aware of any means of testing for this before you get the vaccine. I don't think it's recommended that you test for it. If you have a known allergy, then that is the time when you flag it up. Remember, I said when you get the vaccine, it's like saying, how do I test if I'm allergic to penicillin? You don't know until you have your medication. And if you're allergic, then it's documented. So people with a known allergy are the ones that can flag it up and then get a choice. Generally, you don't have a choice as to which vaccine you have. You will be offered the vaccine that is available, and that is the one you have. But if you have a known allergy, then you flag it up and you will avoid the Pfizer one if you have a known allergy to PEG. The AstraZeneca does not have PEG, and that is why it is offered as an alternative. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it has. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks so much. Once again, I'm going to go to some of the questions that sent in before the program. So this one is asking, Dr. Linus, this is for you. It says, would like to use known products that help to keep the immune system in top conditions, and products which are known to keep respiratory infections at bay. The general protocol of keeping healthy should be used first for using the methods. What is your take on that?
Thank you, Sam. I think the person that wrote the comments or question is, they're absolutely right that we should do in our normal daily lives, we should do everything we can to keep our immunity in top form, which is basically to eat a balanced diet, a healthy balanced diet with lots of fruits and vegetables, to exercise regularly, to keep our weight within recommended limits, avoid smoking and excess alcohol, and recreational drugs. So we will do all of that to try and keep our respiratory and general health, which is fantastic in normal times. But you would agree with me, and I'm sure most people on the call will agree, that these are not normal times. So those things would work, if there wasn't any COVID. But the last several months, the last 11, 12 months has been not like any other time in our lives. So we're facing a very different challenge here. It's a challenge that our body system, our immune system is not used to. And this is why this infection is spreading with such speed. And this is why it's causing so much death and sickness and devastation, particularly in our community as Black people. And therefore, new problems of this type requires a new solution. So even if you've done all the good things, you've eaten healthy and kept a healthy weight, exercise, do all the good stuff, your body and my body wouldn't recognize coronavirus because it's new. And because of that, this is why this vaccination is important as a help, as an extra hand to the immune system. The way I look at vaccination is kind of like, like a gym for the immune system, where the body is trained in its ability to fight off these infections. So yes, they are right in the sense that we should do all the usual stuff that is good for our health. But where we face a new problem like coronavirus, those things will not be adequate. And this is why we're where we are. And therefore, we need extra help for our immune system. And that extra help is the vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dr. Linus. Those of you who have just joined in, thank you so much. This event was set up so that we hear the narratives from our own people, and I think it's important we actually stretch that. People who are top in their profession, in the health profession, and people who have taken the vaccines and who can educate us or allay our fears. And that's the reason why we're having this event. So I'm going to go back to some of the questions that have been posted already before the start of the event. So question here is for Dr. K. And the question is this. Somebody said, what are the potential impact on human reproduction? Does it affect human reproduction? You're on mute, doctor.
Before I answer that question, I'm just going to, I think it's important that we let people know that we will be recording the session. It's very important because there are other people that would like to have these answers but are not able to attend today. So I hope if you would not want to be part of the recording, then we'll just ask you to please signify by leaving, if that's okay, please. Sorry, I just thought it was important that we noted that.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah. So the question is, can I get infertile by having this vaccine? My answer will be the available evidence does not tell us anything about infertility. The studies that have been done, my first doesn't tell us anything about infertility, but if we think about it logically, the vaccine does not contain a virus. The vaccine does not contain any virus in it. It doesn't contain, it has spike proteins and vectors. So there is no proof that it would lead to infertility. That's a straightforward answer. No.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kuku. So I completely agree with that. There is no information to suggest that this vaccine causes infertility. The vaccine works for those who are interested, basically within the outer areas of the human cell. It doesn't get inside the, if you like, the headquarters called the nucleus of the body cells. So in that sense, it's in no position to actually affect future children or anything like that. So I don't think there's any reason to worry about that.
All right, thank you so much for that. Looking at some of the questions that were sent in, something keep coming up, and that is the fact that a lot of people are of the worry that a lot of testing hasn't gone on this vaccine. So how do you then, what do you recommend if the testing is not it's not as long as it should have been? So I think there's a lot of fear about that. So how do you kind of allay people's fear, or what do you say about that?
So if I make a start, and maybe Dr. Dyer can add to what I have to say. So I think they've done all the relevant tests. So all the tests that would expect them to do with vaccines has been done. What's different is that they've been done much more quickly and at the same time, as opposed to normally when they're developing a vaccine, it takes a long time because you have to apply for funding, they have to approve the funding, you have to start to do tests, and then you have to do the test through different stages, one after the other. And that takes a long time. And maybe in the middle of that, the company that you work for might lose interest, and then they put it in the freezer until maybe a few years later, they remember, actually, we have something there that we can make money out of, and they go and fish it out. So this is why it takes such a long time normally. What has happened on this occasion is that they have done all the relevant tests at the same time. So instead of, if you're making eba with egusi soup or whatever favorite soup you have at home, and if you're the only one who's doing all the different ingredients and adding it to the pots and then doing the eba, that will take a very long time to get to the dinner table. But if you have your children or you have your relatives and everyone is contributing, doing one thing and another, and all the ingredients are going to the pots at the same time, you will still have your eba with egusi soup or okra soup, but you will have it much quickly than you would if you had to run to the shop or do this and do that. So what has happened is that our governments and universities and scientists working for companies, they've come together, they've worked at a very fast pace to get the vaccine going because of the emergency that we face. But these vaccines have then been put through all the relevant tests, and the tests have been done. They've done research the way it should be done. They've collected data. They've submitted the data to relevant regulatory agencies in the US, the FDA, in this country, the MHRA, and also in Europe and other parts of the world. They've looked at what they've done independently and found it fit, safe, and efficacious to use in the population. So no corners have been cut up to the approval of the vaccine, but it has happened fast because it's priority for everyone, and money has been pumped into it, hundreds of millions of pounds. And as you and I know, money makes things happen very quickly. So that's important to recognize. So we can be sure that they were properly tested and they were found to be safe and effective, and no corners were caught. I hope that answers the question for the individual. But Dr. Dye, I don't know if you have more to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydon. That was quite a comprehensive response. I'm just going to summarize it in a few words because you've said it all. And that's basically that the speed of approval is mainly due to the cutting of the red tape rather than cutting corners. So there's a lot of bureaucracy when you talk about trials, but because this is actually unprecedented times, there has been a worldwide scientific collaboration and funding has been pumped into this particular research program. The other thing that we need to be aware of is that people have come forward. So in the past, researchers are asking for people to come along and be involved in the trials. But because of the way the pandemic has impacted almost everyone, people have willingly come forward for the trials. So that has speeding up things. So what would have taken years has actually been done in months. Like Lionel said, there is no reason to be worried about the speed at which it has come forth. It has been done in the proper way. So when vaccines are being produced, they look at the efficacy and they look at the safety. Both of them, nothing has been compromised. The only thing that has happened is it has been speeding up by funding, people coming up quickly, and also people working together in a more collaborative way.
Sorry, can I just add something to do with, we got a few questions which I think is relevant to address here regarding whether these vaccines were tested in Black people. And the answer to that is yes. It was tested in Black people, and it was found to be effective in Black people. And if you can just share two pictures to show that, because like they say, a picture is more than 1,000 words. So this is information from the Pfizer trial. They had thousands of people on the Pfizer trial, and Black people were involved. If you look at this line, it describes the different individuals involved in the trials. And you could see Black and African-American people. And actually, if you look at the efficacy in Black people, it's 100%, it says here. You could see it's as good as everyone. In fact, it's better than most other ethnic groups. So Black people were tested, and it was found to be effective in Black people as well. If you look at the data I'll show you the data for the Oxford and AstraZeneca trial. This is it. Again, you can see that where it describes the sort of the ethnicity of people who are involved in the trial, you could see that Black people were involved. And again, it was found to be effective in Black people. We had a few questions asking whether it was tried in Black people. And I hope that would answer those questions for those individuals. The answer is yes, and it was found to be equally effective, if not more effective in Black people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Linus, Dr. K. Dr. Linus, I think your Eba Negusi illustration should help get the facts home. Now, I have quite a lot of questions on the chat. I have 2 people raising their hands. I'll come back to you shortly. Again, we have quite a few people that have joined. You're welcome to this. We're talking about that big topic, the vaccines. And we have with us Dr. K and Dr. Linus, who are local GPs and from the Black community. there was a survey done, a lot of questions have been asked, and we're trying to take those. So the next question from the chat is, just a minute, as I'm reading, it keeps coming in. Is there a way or a test for reaction to PEG before you take the Pfizer vaccine?
We've answered that.
Okay.
Can I just say as well, with regard to that particular concern, which it's also one of the common things that we were asked. So reactions to PEG are very, very rare. The data that I have seen with regards to coronavirus vaccine, it's 1 in 100,000 people may have a reaction to PEG. So you can imagine a stadium full of people, it's just one person there in a big stadium full of people who may have sensitivity to PEG. So it's not something we would particularly worry about. The allergy to penicillin is 1 in 5,000 people, but we don't worry about allergy to penicillin. We use penicillin all the time. If you're found to have allergy to penicillin, then we stop using it for people. But actually, for PEG is far, far less. 1 in 100,000 is the information we have with regard to the vaccine. So we can all be confident that this is not something we should worry about. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Linus. I have a question from Modupe Obishesan, but you have your hands raised, so I'm just going to ask you to unmute and ask your question. Modupe Obishesan.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for organizing this. Really, really helpful. The first question I wrote there, Dr. K used a medical vocabulary. I didn't spell it right. Can you read that, please? What does it mean?
Anaphylaxis. Okay.
Yeah.
So anaphylaxis is it's a severe form of allergic reaction. So we do have some allergic reactions, and most of the time they're mild. So it could just be things like itchy rash, sort of like so when you have anaphylactic reactions, it goes in stages. So in the first stage, you have things like rashes, and that's very common where it begins to itch. After that, you have the next stage, which could go on to vomiting and diarrhea, where you feel sick. After that, you could then go on to stages where you begin to have difficulty breathing, and some people could then begin to have wheezing. It becomes more severe as you move up the ladder. So after that, you then get to stages where people begin to have lip swelling or tongue swelling. When you get to the stage where you get into the respiratory component of difficulty breathing, tongue swelling, lip swelling, for some people, they feel like they're choking and they can't breathe. And for some people, it leads to collapse. So when you get the very severe form of an allergic reaction, it's called anaphylaxis. It could be so severe that it could lead to death if you do not get treatment immediately. So that's what we call anaphylaxis. It's a severe form of allergic reaction to a component, food, medicine, vaccine, or whatever it is. So exposure to something.
Thank you so very much for that comprehensive explanation. And I have two questions. Do people, has it been found that people have such allergy to the vaccine, please?
I'll leave Linus to answer that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Modupe. So I think I mentioned not long ago that yes, people do have allergy to components of the Pfizer vaccine called PEG, but this is extremely rare. This is very, very rare. And I mentioned the number that we have at the moment is 1 in 100,000 people may have allergy to a severe allergic reaction to this particular component. So, and if you compare that to penicillin, 1 in 5,000, penicillin allergy is much more common, but nobody worries about penicillin allergy. It doesn't make the headlines. So what I'm trying to say is that this is so rare that nobody should worry about it. If you had allergy to PEG, you may probably know. If you don't, I wouldn't worry about it because it's very, very rare. And I mentioned that in the stadium, in the big stadium full of people, 100,000 seater stadium, there will only be one individual who may be allergic to PEG. So I hope that helps to put it in context. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Finally, I'm so sorry for taking your time. I know there was a question written on the chat that can people not have a choice of which one they want? And another thing is, why is it 2 doses, please?
So if so in terms of the choice, this is a government policy really that, you know, is not something I can comment on, but the two vaccines, they work. We know that they work because they've been tried and found to work and to be safe. In terms of if there's a medical reason for somebody to need to have one other than the other, then maybe that's a good reason to make a choice between the two. But other than that, I'm not aware of any particular reason why somebody should have one or the other. If it's just in terms of, you know, would you prefer to have one or the other? Then I mean, you can have a chat with your healthcare worker and see if there's an opportunity for you to have a preferred one. But there's no advice or guidelines around, you know, allowing people to pick and choose. There's no choice to be made between the two. They both work and they're both effective. Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much. But why is it? Why are there 2 doses? That's my final question.
I'll answer the 2 doses question.
Thank you.
Give Linus a little break. Yeah. So the reason why we have 2 doses is, like we said, the purpose of the vaccination is actually to build your immune response. So yes, when you get the first dose, you build your immune response to a certain extent. And I need to say that even when we get the vaccines, it takes 2 weeks for your immunity to build properly. Because I guess we might have a question later on that talks about people get a test positive after getting the vaccination. So when you get the vaccination, it primes your body to build an immune response. With the Pfizer vaccine, evidence shows that in the first 10 days, it's 52%. In the next 14 days, is 90%. And then by the time you get the second vaccine, which initially Pfizer said should be after 21 days, your immunity goes up to 95%. So the reason why you need 2 vaccines is so that the second dose is like a booster dose that prolongs your immunity for a longer period of time. And we are aware that this is not the first time. With several vaccination programs, we have several doses for that reason. So in children immunization, you have dose 1, dose 2, dose 3, and then they have the 1-year dose for things like, and that's why even with the flu vaccine, I wouldn't use the flu vaccine. With the tetanus vaccine, you have different doses, and that's so that it builds your immunity, and over a period of time, you are better protected.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, doctors. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, doctors. Yes, Maduka, I'm sure you've had a lot of questions, and I know that those answers will help quite a few of us. Okay, I will take a couple of questions from the chat, and then I'll go back to raise hands. I think possibly I don't know if this has been answered. Where can we formally report side effects? So if people take the vaccine and they have side effects, what do you do? How do you report that? Dr. K, you want to take that?
Okay, so that's a very, very important question because with every medication, there is always the risk of having side effects. There is what we call the yellow card scheme. So if you get an allergic reaction, it's very, very important that you actually report it, and you can get that on the NHS website. Linus might be able to ping that up as we talk, since he's got access to the computer. The reason why it's very important is we know that if it's reported, we can look back and learn lessons from it, and then things can be put in place to avoid, to educate and to avoid a repeat of that. So the reasons why we know about side effects of current medications is because they are being reported. So that's a very important question. There is a yellow card scheme. You press on that, you fill a form, and it goes to the MHRA, because in the UK, we have the Medicines Healthcare Regulation Agency, which actually monitors that. And the companies are actually have been mandated to have ongoing safety monitoring so we can pick up the side effects.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah, can I just add? I will try and find the link and post it on the chat. But even before that, when you have the vaccination, and I have had mine, and Dr. Day has had hers as well, you're given a booklet which contains information on how you can report side effects. So if at all you do have a side effect, there's information that you'll be given in black and white that would explain to you what you need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. And could I just mention that this event is now being recorded, just so everyone knows, you know. Yes.
Sorry, sorry, Flo, sorry to interrupt. I missed the basic step, which is, if you don't know what to do, report it to your GP.
Okay, I think that's a good one. So your GP is always there for you to report, you know, anything you want to report, and then you take it from there. Also, someone asked that if you have an allergic reaction to penicillin, does that have any effect on you taking the vaccine?
So the straightforward answer to that is no, because there is no cross-transference of allergy. There is no proven evidence, and the fact that you're allergic to penicillin doesn't mean you'll be allergic to the vaccine.
Okay, thank you. I'll take someone who's raised their hand. Jide, I have you here. You've been raising your hand for a while. So Jide, if you will unmute yourself, please ask a question.
Thank you very much. Firstly, let me just say thank you to everybody that's on the panel. Thank you for volunteering your time, because we really do need you. Can I make a suggestion as well? This is about vaccines, and you're trying to give us reassurance, but I think also the panel should be balanced by those doctors that haven't taken the vaccine and maybe will not take the vaccine, as well as those who have taken the vaccine as well. I think it will give us as an audience some confidence, where we have specialists, you know, both debating and advising to us as an audience. Going to Dr. O, you answered a question with regards to the speed of the vaccine being created. I'm still trying to learn all the terminology and trying to familiarize myself with what's going on. And something came up today, which was called plug and play. Are you familiar with that?
Hi, sorry, in what context? There's all sorts of plug and play, from electronics to investments. So
yeah, that's what I thought. When I heard the terminology, I thought, wow, okay, plug and play. Well, plug and play apparently is this new technology with regards to creating these new vaccines.
Oh yeah, so I think I know where you're heading with that. So I obviously I don't know the details of where exactly you had the information, but for so many years now, companies, including Moderna, but also BioNTech, the German company, they've been researching, developing what they call platforms or modules for delivering things like vaccines, including the mRNA technology. The idea being that if you have a process for this kind of vaccine development, if you have a new emerging infectious disease, and we have these new infections coming up all the time, then you can very quickly use the genetic sequence information and produce the nucleic acid in the lab and develop a vaccine very quickly. Was that what you were referring to?
Yeah, I was trying to get my head around it, because I think part of, I did ask a question in the chat, which was about trust. And why do you as doctors feel that there is, well, I asked the question, what is the hesitancy? What do you believe the hesitancy towards the vaccine is with regards to the Black community? And someone mentioned trust. And the issue with trust, especially when you look at how, the whole narrative about the speed of the vaccine being created, is one of those things that I think that fear needs to be allayed and understood. So if it's articulated in such a way where we understand how it's been able to be created so fast, then maybe that will win a little bit more trust within our community.
Can I just say something about that, please, Doctor?
Yeah.
This is from a non-medical perspective, but in reference to what Jide is asking, the questions you're asking is actually the reason why this event was put up. And I totally agree with what you're saying. But I think what we're also trying to let people know is that from the narrative is coming from our own people now, because what we used to have is other people telling us the effect of it or what is supposed to be taken out of it. But what we're trying to do now is to look inwards at our people who are part of the system, have gone through some of these things we're talking about, and for them to be able to tell us from own perspective. So, which hopefully will give us some reassurance and will be able to enlighten us further. And I think that is why we've actually set up this.
No. Listen, I am so thankful that you've put this event on. I'll be honest. I'll say that I'm an anti-vaxxer. I'm not a go out there and say don't take the vaccine, but I'm very skeptical, very skeptical. And as yet, that skepticism has not come down. So I'm still to be convinced.
So can I ask you, Jide, if I just ask you, so you were talking about the speed of development of the vaccination.
Yes.
So the explanations we've given about the amount of funding and how they've changed the process of development by doing what should happen sequentially has been done in parallel.
Yeah.
We've had funding, we've had regulatory agencies that have been looking at the data from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And the effect of this has been that, the development period has been compressed.
Yeah.
And compare that to normal period where normally a scientist in a company, I've got colleagues who work for pharma. You think that this particular substance could have a treatment effect or a preventive effect, and you write a business case, you go to the board, you present your case. They tell you, okay, we'll give you funding to do exploratory research, and you start. And maybe 6 months down the line, the board decides we have other priorities. There's a new opportunity. We'll pull your resources. You don't have any assistance. You put things on hold. 2 years down the line, the market is dry. They feel like the pipeline is dry. We need to start something new. They call you and say, you know what, you need to unfreeze that project that you were doing. Let's start again. This is the typical journey that drug development and vaccine development takes. And it's that way because it's private. It's done in response to market conditions by companies that respond to shareholders who have a very short time horizon. What we have done, what has happened in this case is that governments have pumped hundreds of millions of pounds and dollars into this research efforts. And they've put orders on the table, giving financial motivation for companies. So there wasn't a question as to, if we develop this vaccine, will people pay for it? No. People were already queuing up with huge order books. So you could see the motivation that they had to move very quickly. But the other point to make is that hasn't led to corners being cut, because they still have to go through independent regulatory agencies, the FDA and the MHRA, as well as the European Medicines Agencies. And I have some idea how these agencies work. Some of the approvals are done by independent scientists that work in public universities and research institutions. They're not beholden to government or to the regulatory agencies. They're basically people who are experts in the field. They give independent opinion, and they all had to look at the data, and they were happy. But also for me, I've had quite a bit of training in healthcare and medicine and research as well, postgraduate degrees in public health and things like that. And I've looked at the data in detail, and I'm convinced looking at the data that actually these vaccines work. So I'm not just here as a booster station for anyone else. I've looked at the data and I'm convinced that they do work. And I feel that it would be unfortunate if this help available and our people are not taking advantage of it. And I've shown, I don't know when you joined up, but I've shown the data that suggests that of all ethnicities in the UK, we are dying more, we are sick a lot more from coronavirus, but also we're least likely to take the vaccine. So that is a challenge for all of us. And I feel challenged by it. I hope that you feel the same way about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Linus. And thank you, Jide. It's actually very encouraging that this is an open forum where you can express yourself. And I need to say the whole aim of this is not to be judgmental. We are here not to convert anyone, but to share information. That is the main purpose of this. At the end of the day, each individual will make their decision based on the information they have received. You are not alone, Jide, because I'm a GP, and I will say to you, initially I was anti-vaccine. I was very anti-vaccine because I did not have enough information. And so I said to everyone who asked me, leave me out of it, because I did not have enough information. And without enough information, I was not going to take it. What I then did was to seek for information, and that's why I can sit on this panel. I went out to look for the information, I weighed it up, and then I made an informed decision to take the vaccine based on the information that I heard. So for everyone on this platform, please do not feel we're trying to convert you or to cajole you or to pressure you. We are just here to share factual information, because we do know that there is information out there, but most of it is not vetted, most of it is not up to date, and a bit of it is incorrect. So please don't feel under pressure.
No, thank you to both of you. I really do appreciate your honesty and the information that you're giving us as well. What I would say though is that it is really important to have both sides of the coin as part of the discussion, because then that, for me as an audience member, makes it feel a lot more balanced. And I will take information from both parties. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jide, and thank you, Dr. Linus and Dr. K. I mean, as you've rightly said, Dr. K, it's an open forum. We're here for information. Even from the survey, the questions that were sent in and the comments that were sent in, a lot of people are skeptical about taking the vaccination. And as we know, information is power. And that's why we're here, to get as much information to help us make an informed decision. So thank you for that. I know hands are raised, but I'm just going to quickly take a few questions from the chat and then hand over to Sam again to take some questions that have been sent in. So there's a question that says, if one has been told that one's immune system, sorry, as I read the questions, other questions come in and push that question off the screen. It's just, if one has been told that one's immune system is slightly compromised due to having had sepsis, would the vaccine still fully protect my immune system sufficiently? So either Dr. K, Dr. Linus, or both of you, if you.
So I'm going to answer that in two parts. The first part will be the mention of sepsis. So the first part I'm going to address is the fact that if you have an acute illness, you shouldn't have that vaccine until at least 4 weeks after. So if you are unwell, you have a temperature, you've got sepsis, you've got any form of illness, you've got COVID-19, you should give yourself at least 4 weeks before you even take the vaccine. Yeah. The other bit is the immunity status question, and it is a very important question. What research has shown is that, remember, we keep going back to the fact that what the vaccine does is it primes your body to build up antibodies. So if you have a compromised immune system, the advice is that you need to be aware that you can have the vaccine, but your system may not respond adequately to produce enough antibodies to protect you well enough. So you may have a minimized response compared to someone who can respond promptly and produce enough antibodies. So it does not mean you cannot have it, but it means if you have it, your response might not be good enough. So that, remember what we're saying here is that if you have the vaccine, you're going to have a milder disease. And so what I will say to everyone with an immunocompromised or reduced immunity is to please discuss with your healthcare professional. discuss with your GP. Your GP has your full record, and your GP will be in the best position to advise you as to whether to take it or not. For some people like this, you'll be under the hospital. Your GP might have to seek expert advice. Your GP might need to ring the consultants and say, this is the situation. What do we do? So I will say seek advice.
Thank you, Dr. K, for that. Okay, there's another question. I'm going to paraphrase because it's done now. But the fact that for the efficacy of the vaccine, we're meant to take the vaccine, I think it's within either a 3-week or a 6-week period. But at the minute in the UK, that's not what's happening. We're now being told that we need to take it. I don't know if it's 2 months or 3 months. Now, how does this affect the efficacy of the vaccine?
Thank you very much. That's an important question, one that has been worrying a lot of people, including myself. And I do not know the answer to the question. We'll have to wait to see and find out. And in any case, you know, whatever the answer is, the current situation is that the government wants to have the program run in a certain way, and I have no control over that. And I don't imagine anyone on the call has control over that. So we will have to wait and see what the experts say. It's not the way I would have preferred to have it run personally, because that was not the way the vaccines were tried, were trialed. I mean, but the reality is that we have no control over that, and we have to just, you know, go with what is available. Thank you.
That's quite an interesting and important question. And I think a lot of people are actually asking that question. And one of the things I'd like to flag up is the reason why the government has actually said, instead of 21 days, take it to 12 weeks. So should I start by saying that we have 2 vaccines, but the Pfizer, the research showed second dose after 21 days. With the Oxford vaccine, it said 8 to 12 weeks, because they found that the booster, the building up your immunity, is better after 4 weeks. Why did the government say 12 weeks rather than 21 days? I think that might give us a bit of understanding and maybe help us understand why it is. So one of the reasons is actually availability of the vaccine. So we have a situation where you can vaccinate a small number of people with 2 doses, yet the majority of the population is not vaccinated. That will defeat the purpose of achieving herd immunity. And when I talk of herd immunity, I mean the more people you vaccinate, the better the buildup of immunity and the reduction in the spread of the vaccine. Yeah. So the reason why the government said 2 dose, the second dose is extended, is so that more people can be vaccinated, even though they will not get the height of the immunity. Like I have given the figures with how much you get after 14 days and how much you get after the second dose. There will still be some immunity. So it's sort of like, I liken it to half bread is better than none. What evidence has shown is that the little immunity you get from your first dose is better than no immunity. So getting that first dose gives you some immunity, and I did read it up, and it said the immunity you get prolonged to 12 weeks is better than majority of the population not getting it. And it would not lead to adverse effects. So the fact that you get it at 12 weeks does not mean that the vaccination program is not effective enough. It does not mean that what it simply means is if you got it at 21 days, you'll be better protected compared to if you got it at 12 weeks. But it does not mean you will not be protected. And when I say better protected, it just means 95%, 95 out of 100 will be protected compared to maybe 70 out of 100. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Dr. K. Yeah. Thanks a lot for that. Bila Soya, your hand has been raised for a while. I don't know if your question has been answered already.
Hello, everyone. Hello there. Thank you very much. Really appreciate this. This is great. Quick question for you. The panel and everyone in general, can you think of one Black celebrity or statesperson who can help promote this? Because I have been really incensed with seeing the likes of Prue Leith, Boris Johnson's dad, everyone else is having someone to take a lead. And I'm not saying that we're sheep, but what I'm saying is time is of the essence and representation matters. So if it means that we see somebody like us have that vaccination, it may give more of us that choice to say, I want to go for it. But all in all, this is a really great conversation. You've opened my eyes, so thank you. I'm keen to hear about celebrities that you can think of.
Dr. K, you're muted. Unmute, Dr. K.
Yeah, thank you, B. I love that question. I love it to bits. And I'm going to take it on a lighter note because I'm going to say I'm a celebrity. So why can't you listen to me?
I was going to say so too, Dr. K.
Okay.
But we haven't seen you in Aylesbury.
Yeah, I'm on my way. I'm work in progress. So on a lighter note, yes, time is of essence and representation is very important. Overnight, I was actually on a group and it is happening. The question is, where is it happening? Where is it happening? And I guess as we get on social media and put it out there, then maybe people will come up better. Maybe people put themselves forward because I guess some people are not thinking about it. And they probably have queries like you and I did. And probably that's the reason why they probably haven't come out. But there are people. I was on a clubhouse meeting overnight for about 5 hours, and there were doctors from all over the world sharing information. Just sharing information so that people can make informed decisions. So it is happening, but it may not be obvious enough to us. Get on social media, put that question out there, and I'm sure someone who is a better celebrity than me will come up.
Thank you. Yeah, Dr. K is a celebrity, by the way. So yeah, just saying. So someone's asking, I saw that question also. Why would someone who has taken the vaccine test positive after 2 weeks of taking the vaccine?
I can answer that. So when you get the COVID-19 vaccine, it takes 2 weeks for you to develop, an average of 2 weeks for you to develop immunity. So there are several reasons why you will test positive after the vaccination. One reason why, okay, let me do it this way. So that's one bit. So if you had infection before you took the vaccine, you will test positive because you were already positive, but you did not know. That's one scenario. If you had the vaccination and your body had not built enough response to the vaccination, you may test positive. The other, one thing I'd like to stress is you will not test positive because you got the vaccine, because the vaccine does not have any virus in it. So I need to be very clear about that. You will not test positive because you got the vaccine. The other reason why you may test positive is, remember, we talked about people with reduced immune status. So if you are immunocompromised or your immune status is not strong enough, it takes you longer to build that immunity. So when you get exposure, there is a chance that you will get the infection, you will test positive. The other bit to it is, it depends on what you're using to determine that you're positive. So we know there are 2 types of tests. You have the PCR test, which actually detects active infection. And for that one, it will only detect active infection, and that is bait. There's another test that's called the antibody test. So if you're talking about someone having positive antibodies after the vaccine, that wouldn't be surprising because there's something called about an immune response to the vaccine. And people that get the vaccination, we expect them to build up antibodies and test positive somewhere along the line. So I don't know if that has answered your question. There's so many reasons why you will test positive. And we have said the vaccine is not 100%.
Thank you so much, Dr. K.
I don't know if Linus has anything to add to that.
Yeah.
No, I think you've covered it. Thank you.
Okay. Sam, I'll just hand over to you to take some of the questions that were sent in while I look at other questions again on the chat, just so we can address some of the questions sent in.
Thank you so much to everybody who is spoken. I just to mention that when I sent this information, when I sent it to B last year, she was so excited, and she's in Buckinghamshire, and then she just said, you know, she's going to spread it on. And what we have today is a testimony of the fact that people really want to have some of this. They want some of this. So can I just make an observation? This is meant to finish at 5:30. So we have just about minutes. What an event it's been. Unfortunately for us, because I didn't envisage it was going to be this much people, we only had a capacity for 100 people. So what we found out now is that some people have not been able to actually get in. So what I'm saying in essence is that we're going to meet together as a committee. And I'm just saying it in the presence of everybody now that doctors, you need to know that you're going to have to be coming back again, you know, and then we get a bigger platform, because people can still with so much questions that they have for you. So we will let you know what's going to happen. And there's still so much questions yet to be answered on the platform. Now, in terms of the conspiracy theories, I don't think it will be okay if we don't leave this place. If we leave this place without that, people have talked about metals. People have talked about what's called now tracking systems. Does any of that make sense to you?
Yes, hi. Yeah, I think the conspiracy theories are interesting because of the sort of, you know, it's some of them, if you think about them, they don't sort of quite make sense, but that's why they're conspiracy theories. And I understand that people hear about these things, that they might be persuaded by them. But I think what is important is what we're all doing, which is to try and come together and have a chat and a discussion and share information and hopefully get to better knowledge as to what exactly is happening. So what I'm going to do is to just share my screen and show everyone the contents of these vaccines. And this is everything that is inside the vaccine. So you can take a screenshot of it if you want, because there's nothing else in the vaccine except what I'm going to show you. So we're going to start with the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Just give me a second. I'm going to try and share my screen. I'm just trying to pull this up so we can have a look. Yeah, so those are the components of the Oxford vaccine. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 components, including water. This is the same water as the one that we drink. Everything else is here is something that we use, you know, very, very commonly. So there's nothing here that is a metal in the sense of being an ion or anything like that. There's nothing here that is a tracking device. So I hope that hopefully reassures people who are worried about the components of the vaccine for the Oxford vaccine. And I'm going to do the same thing for the Pfizer vaccine. So these are the components of the Pfizer vaccine. Again, you can see a few different things. Sucrose is basically sugar. Water, again, the same kind of water that we drink. Cholesterol is in food we eat. Sodium chloride is basically table salt. So a lot of these things are very, very, very common ingredients that we see and use in our everyday life. even without knowing it. The key ingredient, of course, is the mRNA itself, which is what causes the body to produce the immune response. So those are the components of the vaccines, and I hope that helps reassure anyone worried about metals or tracking devices. There is no tracking device in the vaccine. Thank you.
Okay. Flo.
Thank you. First of all, could I please ask that everyone mute? We can hear some background. Okay, could you please mute your microphone? Thank you. Okay. As we've said, it's almost 5:30. That was when we planned for this to end.
I was going to say, Flo, that as members of the panel, we're happy to stay on for another 30 minutes, if that's acceptable.
Okay, thank you, Dr. K. Thanks for that. And Dr. Linus has also said his last day. So I know there are quite a lot of questions, and we're just going to take as many as we can. So we will just stay on and take as many questions as we can. Thank you. Another question was, it's been said that 2- and 3-year-olds have tested positive for COVID. So why are they not being given the vaccination?
The vaccination being offered is based on evidence and the research being done. The research being done has not been done on children below the age of 12. The emergency license, because it was done at such a short period of time, they had to use an emergency license to give the vaccinations, and it's actually licensed for people, for children in the UK. It's licensed for children over 12. So in America, I'm aware that they're giving children between 12 and 18. But in the UK, it's been given only to people over the age of 18. For children between the age of 12 and 16, there's still a lot of research to be done. So in terms of safety monitoring, as a nation, we've decided for now, we'll just stick to the 18 and above.
Okay, thank you, Dr. K. Also, there's a question about, can you take the vaccine if you have sickle cell anemia?
The answer, oh, sorry, Linus, go on, Linus.
Yeah. So if you have sickle cell disease or the traits, you should be able to take the vaccine. And it's not a contraindication to taking the vaccine. And can I also use the opportunity to address other health conditions? So even if you have other health conditions, whether it's hypertension or diabetes or whatever other health conditions that you have, if it's not a new ongoing sickness, like you have a sickness that came out of nowhere and that comes with things like fever or things like that, you should be able to have the vaccination. So if you have what they call long-term health conditions, whatever they are, you should be able to have the vaccination. And indeed, like Dr. Dayo had already explained.
And this is of high blood pressure, asthma, and all that.
Yes, high blood pressure, asthma, COPD, all kinds of health conditions, bowel conditions. You are still able to take the vaccination, thankfully. And indeed, these are the people who are sort of more at risk, so they will benefit more from having the vaccination. So I hope that answers the question. So certainly for sickle cell sufferers or people who have sickle cell traits, yeah, they should be able to have the vaccination, and it should work for them as well. Thank you.
Dr. K, I think you were going to say something.
Linus answered it. Thank you.
Okay. Just reading, first of all, I mean, a lot of people are saying thank you to you both. Just say, so you know, they're proud of you as being part of us. So thank you. And it has been an informative session. So just to say thank you to that and to let you know that people do appreciate this session. And yeah. So I just saw a question. I've lost it, but it's something about the myth of people barking after taking the vaccination. Sorry, that is just, I haven't even heard that one. That people bark after taking the vaccination. Am I gonna let Dr. K, could you actually give us an answer to that? I'm trying to find the question again, the way it has been put.
I'll leave Linus to answer that.
Barking, having fits after the vaccination.
As far as I don't know of any reports of people of barking after the vaccination, or indeed of having fits. What I do know is that there's something that the doctors called a vasovagal faint, which is basically where people faint because they're having something that they are afraid of being done to them. So some people, just by having blood tests, might faint. It's not because of the blood, the needle per se, it's because of the fear of the process that can make them faint. And sometimes people go to the loo to ease themselves, and they might actually faint because of the vasovagal faint, that, as the doctors call it. So I'm not aware of people barking, and it has to be said that, because these vaccines are relatively new, there will be new things that I imagine all the time. I think the medical community are keeping an open mind. This is why we have a reporting system in this country and in Europe and America as well, to keep a record of all these effects and to see if there's a pattern. And where there is one, they would, I'm sure, address those things. Can I also, I don't know whether this is the right moment, or maybe we can leave it for later, to talk about people that also have conspiracy theories around faith.
Please go ahead. I think that's go
Sorry,
ahead.
Before we do that, I was just going to say there are a few videos going around about the joke. So the backing thing is a joke. I think it's the anti-vaccine conspiracy that's actually promoting them. And we need to be mindful of the fact that there are a lot of myths and misconceptions and misinformations about the vaccine. One of them is the fact that the vaccine has microchips in them. And so if you get them, you're going to become a zombie, or they're going to track you. And that's not true. If they're going to track you, you've got your bank cards, you've got your phones. Your phone is the easiest big gadget they use to track you. Who is there without a phone? No. So there are things like there's metal in it. There's no metal in it. There are things like, does it have gluten? It doesn't have gluten. For vegans, they're saying, does it have animal products in it? It doesn't have animal products in it. Linus has shown us very clearly what is inside the vaccines. So most of these things are from the conspiracy theory, and that's why we're here, just to share information so you can actually differentiate the truth from what is not true.
Yeah, Dr. Linus, you were going to say something about the faith-based one. I think you can go ahead and just say that now.
Yes, so we got a question about somebody asking if it's a mark of the beast, and a few other questions around things like that. And I mean, I think, so in terms of faith, if we start from the Muslim Council of Britain, as well as the British Islamic Medical Association, they've both come out in support of the vaccination. So for our Muslim brothers and sisters, I think the guidance is clear that there's nothing in them that makes them unsuitable for their faith. And for our Christian brethren as well, there's no evidence. I've listened to religious leaders on the vaccines, and the ones I've listened to are all very clear that there's no biblical reason not to take the vaccine. It doesn't mean that you don't have faith. And indeed, I mean, if you go to Exodus 23:25, and if you just permit me to sort of very quickly say, it says, "You shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from among you." So this is for the faithful. This is God saying that he can bless your bread and your water, and he can take away sickness just by doing that. So in a sense, we have to appreciate the fact that it's a gift for humanity that we have people who are talented, who have been able to do the research and find this vaccine. And the fact that we have a cure for this horrible illness is indeed a gift from God. And we have to appreciate that. And I think in a sense, it wouldn't make sense. Well, I don't see how it will make sense that the same God will be against using something that he's given freely to mankind to deal with this horrible illness. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Linus. Mr. Fagbenro, I know you asked a question before. Your hands is still raised. I don't know if it's an old one or you have another question.
Yeah, it's just following on the issue of trust as raised by Jide. And then first to thank our two celebrities, Dr. K and Dr. Linus. Thank you so much for your input. Now, on the issue of trust, it's been reported in the case of Pfizer, and using Nigeria, for example, when they came up with these polio vaccines in part of the north. And it's been reported that quite a number, a very high percentage, if not all, the children that were vaccinated at that point in time had one form of disability or the other by introducing a particular vaccine for them. And it transpired that, yes, the proper trials have not been done and things not properly vetted. But obviously, because of our leaders that are known to be corrupt, the case never saw the light of day. But it has come out in some circles that this has happened and it has not been denied. And that is one of the things that is causing concern amongst the Black community, to say that if Pfizer have been involved in such a thing in the past and they've neither denied it nor accepted responsibility, how can we trust them with this new one? Yes, okay, we've understood all the emergencies associated with coming up with something, but if something equally as serious should come up, then where do we stand? So that's on the issue of trust. Then the second thing that I've noticed, particularly for us as Black, I'm also Black, is that we follow a lot of hearsays and follow what is written in social media than actually going after knowledge itself. And I've already put on the comment that it's commonly said that when you want to hide something from Black people, put it in black and white, because they don't read. They would rather follow hearsays and what their friend says. So I would want to encourage virtually everyone on this platform, find one aspect that you are uncertain about and go and do in-depth study of that. And that's the only way you can overcome this issue of trust or skepticism, as the case might be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dayo, for that. That's very, very useful comment and advice. I think as individuals, trust is very important, and without trust, you cannot build relationships. Without relationships, it's going to be difficult to convince people or to move forward. So trust is very important, and I love the advice you've given. The other bit to trust is actually the fact that they've done it once does not mean they'll always do it. 1, 2, we all have to make decisions based on information, which is why you've said everyone should think of what is it that is stopping you from taking it. I talked about myself. I was not going to take it. And the only reason why I was not going to take, and I told my family members, said, all of you, hang on. No one's taking this vaccine until we know what we're dealing with. And because the reason why I did that was I did not have enough information. I'm a GP, but I did not have enough. It wasn't available at the point in time. So I took time to make my research. And when I got enough information, I took the vaccine. What we all have to think of as individuals is, how much of a risk do I want to take? Every medication you have, I say to my patients, every medication is a poison. And it is a poison because if you take aspirin when you do not need it, it is a poison to you. But if you take aspirin after a heart attack, it is medicine to you. So it's based on why are you taking it. So I'm sort of saying to everyone, think about it. Do you want to face the risk of getting COVID-19 and deal with the complications, which include the loss of life? Or do you want to take the risk of taking this vaccine and having a reduced, even if you get COVID-19, getting a reduced or an asymptomatic infection? So we all have to sit down and see where our comfort level is. And as medical professionals, that's what we always do with patients. We say, this is what it is. This is the risk. This is the benefit. Where do you want to place your decision? And that is why some people, some of our patients will still say, I don't want to go to hospital. So I have patients with COVID-19 who say, I don't want to be admitted. And what we do is say, okay, you don't want to be admitted? This is what may happen if you're admitted. This is what may happen if you're not admitted. And for as long as they understand, can retain it, and can make right decisions, we leave them to take those decisions. So all we're doing here is saying, these are the facts that are available. Remember, these are evolving facts because research is progressive. This is a new virus and new evidence is coming out every day. So what we're telling you now is what is available now. Tomorrow, it might change based on evidence. So let's think about it and say, do I want to take a risk? COVID-19 is a risk. Vaccination is a risk. Every medication is a risk. Which risk do I want to take? For me, I decided I was going to take the vaccine for several reasons. I'm a GP, I'm a frontline worker. I'm a frontline worker, my risk is higher because I see COVID-19 patients every day. Why do I say I see them every day? There are a lot of asymptomatic patients out there. Asymptomatic COVID-19 people that have COVID-19 don't know they have it because they are asymptomatic. So I am at risk. The other thing we need to think about is the fact that if you don't get vaccinated, you may be strong enough immune-wise. How about your grandparents? How about your neighbor? How about your child? You may be fine. If you pass on that infection, what is going to happen to the person next to you? So I'm going to leave us to think about it. The other thing I want to flag up is the fact that some people got COVID-19 and recovered from it. Some people got COVID-19 and recovered partially from it. So there's something called long COVID, which means after 12 weeks, people are still struggling. They have brain fog, they have fatigue, they have depression, they have anxiety. There's too many complications of COVID-19. So I personally don't wish anyone would get COVID-19. The last bit is there's the last group of people who got COVID-19 and did not survive. You don't know what group you're going to fit into. Do you want to risk getting COVID-19 and dying from it? That's food for thought.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Dai. Can I just speak to the comment about the sometimes unethical practices from pharmaceutical companies, and particularly to the tragic events that happened in Kano? I think it's very important that we acknowledge those things because lives were lost. In this case, lives of very young children, and beyond. So the Kano trial with Pfizer went to Kano to try a medication called Trovan. And it wasn't done in an appropriate way. The way the trial was designed, it wasn't done properly. They didn't seek the proper approvals before they did the trial. And as a result of that, unfortunately, children died and suffered disabilities. And it's a dark mark in terms of the record of Pfizer. And we also have to acknowledge that there has been times in the past when medical researchers and pharmaceutical companies have been engaged in very, very unethical behavior, particularly against the Black community. And I'm thinking particularly around things like the Tuskegee trials and so many other instances in the past. What I can say about these tragedies is that with the benefits of knowing how the system works now, there has been a huge improvement from those times. So if anyone who's going to have test vaccines or medications today will have to go through a much more rigorous process. Will have to seek approval and will have to be monitored very closely by publicly funded organizations that are run strictly to do those functions. So they are very skilled and capable of monitoring what is going on. So it's extremely unlikely that such tragic events will happen again. Now, I acknowledge, like it was mentioned, that in Nigeria, the regulatory environment is not as strict. And yes, officials may be corrupt and they may allow such things to happen. But in terms of these vaccines that we're talking about tonight, they were tested in countries where there are very decent regulatory agencies that look at those data to make sure that they were all done by the book. So I am confident personally that all the right things have been done. So I hope that that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Linus and Dr. K. I am looking at the time. I'm also looking at the questions. I think I've found a way of sort of capturing some of those questions. Forgive me if some of them have been answered. Just let us know. But I'm to look at questions that have been asked quite a while ago. Dr. K, I know you answered this on the chat. I don't know if you have the answer now. If you know if an allergic reaction from flagyl should give you a cause for concern in taking the vaccine?
My straightforward answer to that will be no, because like we said, the fact that you're allergic to a particular medication doesn't mean you'll be allergic to the vaccine. Nobody knows who will be allergic to the vaccine apart from those PG that I flagged up. And that's why there are processes in place whereby if you get the vaccine, you're allowed to stay, you will stay around for 15 minutes to be observed. If you have any concerns, then you may be asked to stay about for a bit longer, maybe up to 30 minutes. Most people that react to vaccines react within the first few 30 minutes. So which is why there is room for observation. So if you are concerned, I'm not aware of any reason why you shouldn't have the vaccine. Or if you are concerned, you can have the vaccine, but stay within the building where you can get immediate attention if you get a reaction. And that simply means you be mindful of the symptoms of reaction, which would be you begin to feel itchy, you might feel sick, you might begin to have diarrhea, you might feel short of breath, you might feel dizzy. If any of that happens, ask for help within a controlled environment. And if you get delayed reactions, talk to your GP or call 111, or there is enough processes in place. Seek for medical help.
Thank you, Dr. K. There was a question about airlines eventually asking for people to have a vaccine passport. And why that will be if the vaccine is just actually stopping you from being very ill rather than necessarily preventing you from actually having COVID-19. Do you have any comments on that?
I'll let Linus answer that after I just make one comment. And what comes to mind as you ask that is we do know that in the past, you couldn't travel if you didn't have a yellow fever vaccine. Sure. So there have been measures in place. I think we just need to step back a bit and just look at history. So vaccines have been around for long enough. The difference is that we haven't had such a pandemic in our lifetime. And so our reaction is different in this case. The distressful bit about the pandemic is that there is a huge amount of loss of lives. I looked on the tracker overnight, and over 3 million have died. over. So the rate of death, but in the past, we had yellow fever vaccination. And what happened was then people began to gain immunity. And with time, we seem to have eradicated yellow fever. We also had vaccinations to things like chicken pox.
That's right.
In the past. And now we don't need to have it anymore. People were dying from chicken pox then. But yet we still have vaccines to things like measles because we haven't been able to eradicate it. So the children are having it. So you see, this issue of vaccines, it's something that's going to be with us for a long time. We also have things like flu vaccine. There was a time when people were dying from flu, and that was when the flu vaccine was developed. But even now, we're still having yearly flu vaccines because the flu is still mutating, and every year it tends to present itself in a different way. So there are reasons why we all have concerns about this very vaccine, and we all understand why we have those concerns, but at a point in time, we have to move past the concerns to actually making decisions about what do we want to do about it. And those decisions, unfortunately, are going to have to be individual.
Fantastic answer, Dr. K. Thanks so much for that. That is really, really fantastic. We do have to step back and look backwards and say what has been happening, before now. As I said, there's nothing new under the sun. So this has been happening and we do have to step back. Dr. Linus, I don't know if you want to add anything to that before I take a few.
Yeah, in terms of what will happen about whether they will have vaccine passports or not, I think obviously that's a matter for government and the policy makers to decide. One of the interesting aspects for it, around it, as I see it from a medical doctor's perspective, is that at the moment, we're not entirely clear if the vaccines prevent people from transmitting the virus. So if we do not know that the answer to that question, then maybe having had the vaccine or having a passport wouldn't necessarily mean that you're not safer than anyone else around you. Now, I'm aware that we don't have the answer to that because the way the vaccines were tested, they weren't looking to see if they prevent people from transmitting the virus. They were just looking to see if it prevented serious illness from coronavirus. So as time goes on, more information will definitely come out. And I'm sure that we will have answers to that. And it will then fall on policymakers and politicians to decide whether we would all have vaccine passports or not. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're looking at the time again. We will not go past the 6 p.m. Yeah, we still have a lot of questions here. We will tell you where to send these questions and also the video for you to watch it. We have a lot of questions. This is such a big topic. You would agree with us. And honestly, it's really difficult to answer all the questions. But I have some hands raised, and that will be the last questions we'll be able to take for today. So I'm just quickly going to go through that. I had L44 Ismail first, and then I'll take the other two, and that will be it. Those three hands. I won't be able to take anyone again to talk. So L44 Ismail, do you still have a question to ask, or has that been answered?
Oh no, sorry, I've actually answered. Someone mentioned that there was a question on the chat about it being the mark of the devil and stuff, and I was just putting on there the different myths that were out there. I wasn't asking a question if it actually was part of the side effects and stuff like that. So I think the person misconstrued the information on the chat and thought it was a question. So I was trying to rectify that.
Okay, thank you. Bukola Olagbaju, do you still have a question? Your hand is raised. You can unmute and just ask a question quickly as we round up. Bukola Olagbaju, are you still here? And you can unmute yourself. Okay, I will go to the next person. Bukola, if you do come up again, let me know. Bumi Alade, please. Sorry, Bukola is here and then Bumi goes afterwards. Yes. Bukola, do you want to ask a question? There's a lot of noise in the background. Okay, I'm going to mute her. Okay. Bumi, please, you ask a question.
Okay, thank you very much to the panelists and the organizers. I have two questions, please. I know you've talked a lot about allergies and you've focused on medical allergies. What about people who have food allergies that result in anaphylaxis shock? Are they still okay to take the vaccine? That's my first question. My second question is, can you hear me? Sorry. My second question is, with regards to the vaccines, if you take the 2 doses, are we expected to take the same brand of the 2 doses, or is there a risk with actually being offered the Pfizer dose first and then the Oxford dose as the second vaccine? Thank you.
I'm happy to answer, and then Linus can chip in. For the first question about anaphylaxis, the issue about anaphylaxis and anaphylactic shock actually applies to everything, not just medicine, because we are aware that people actually have severe anaphylactic shock to peanuts. And that's a very, very solid group. So when we say anaphylaxis, it's not just to medicine, it's to food, it's to medicine, it's to even objects, so many things. So I hope that answers that. It's not only to medicine, because you can have anaphylactic shock to anything. And most of the time, you don't even know until your first episode. Once you have a first episode of anaphylactic shock, then you get tested and you get the EpiPen based on recommendation from the specialist. Does that answer that question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. I'll then answer the second question, which talks about mixing the doses. I tend to give straight answers and then explanation, because that way it sticks. So the answer, the straight answer is no. You're not allowed to mix doses. And the reason being, they're actually, those 2 vaccines they are both effective, but they're different. So you cannot. So if you get the Pfizer, you get the second dose of the Pfizer. It's an mRNA. If you get the Oxford AstraZeneca, is an adeno-vector vaccine. So you cannot mix both of them. The other question is, if I get one vaccine and I choose not to get the second vaccine. Sorry. Yeah. The other question is, if I get one vaccine, can I choose not to get the second vaccine? I wouldn't recommend that. There are exceptions to not getting the second vaccine, and that would be things like severe anaphylactic reaction, in which case you will discuss it with your GP. There are a few things that I like to flag up, having said that, is there are another group of people, and these are the people with blood disorders. They also need to discuss. So if you have blood disorders, things like ITP, which is idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura, these are people where when they get injections, they develop real big they have excessive bleeding into the muscles. So if you have things like that, you need to discuss the second vaccine with your GP. Also, there are people that react to the first dose, never knew they will. If you react to the first dose, then you need to discuss with your GP, is it sensible to get the second dose or not? But otherwise, like we said, the first dose is a primer, the second dose is a booster that gives you longer lasting immunity. So if you don't have any specific and medical reasons not to get the second vaccine, I would say please get the second vaccine, because that's when you get a longer lasting immunity, and you cannot mix both vaccines. For me, it's not an issue in the UK because you don't have a choice as to which vaccine you have. We have what you call the JCVI, which is the Joint Committee of Vaccinations and Immunizations. They decide who gets the vaccine, which vaccine. The other bit which I'd like to also mention before we finish is this talk is in preparation for when you are called. We do not encourage you to ring up your GP asking for the vaccination, because there is a program in place. There is a program in place that tells us who gets invited at what period in time. So the start was with people in care homes. After that, they moved on to the 80, those people that are 80 and above and frontline workers. And then we moved down to the 75s, the 70s, the 60s. So there is a program in place. What we are saying is get ready, get prepared. When you get offered the vaccination, please make your informed decision, is what I will say. Don't ignore the invitation. Think about it. Make your informed decision based on the knowledge you have received. And if you want more information, I've got an Instagram handle. I put that regime up on my handle. It's Healing G Zone. And there's several other medical information you can get on there.
Thank you very much.
I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. It has been such a very successful event. All the comments that we've seen on the chat page has really been wonderful. So a couple of things. No doubt, we're going to be appealing to the doctors come back to help us with this, because I think it's something that everybody does need. They need to be informed. So there's a survey monkey just to be able to find out how well this is gone. That's on the chat page already. And then we will be sending it to all the various platforms so that people can feedback. So if you can do that for us, that will be great. So just like Dr. D said, Dr. A said, there's an Healing G page on Instagram where she does so many other things along this line to be able to help people in the health field. So please look into that. So once again, I want to thank first my co-host Flo Aderoju for a fantastic job. I want to thank thank you so much for all the insight that you've given today, and Dr. Anna. But before we go, is way into 6 now, and we'd never intended to stay this long. Is there one last thing you want to say, Dr. Linus?
Yeah, just to thank people who made out the time to join us today. I hope that this has been useful. Like Sam said, if you can fill the survey just to gauge how useful it has been, but also to see if there's appetite for more events in the future. But the point of today's event is to hopefully help us answer some questions and just have a conversation as a Black community, and help us take advantage of the vaccination program that is being rolled out. So I would really like to challenge each and every one of us who are on this call to make the effort. If you have any questions, find the answers to those from reliable sources. And don't just do it by yourself. Take someone along within our community, because we have a lot of work to do in terms of making sure that everyone within our community gets the information they need to make a decision about hopefully getting the vaccine, because it has affected us. The virus has affected our community more than any other community. And it's our responsibility to respond to that. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Okay. Can I just say something that might appear stupid? And the other thing is this: there's nothing wrong with you saying or sharing with people if you've gotten the vaccine, because I don't think it's something that people should hide. And I think that is happening a lot. And the reason is that I've just gotten a message from somebody who was on this platform today, who said he got a call from somebody in London. I don't know if doctors are aware of this. Got a call in London and said that they were giving vaccines to people in Watford. So I thought you needed to get a letter, be called to do that. So I don't know what was happening. But he went there today, and when he got there, he said it was 99% of the people who were there were Black people. They got the vaccine today, the NHS, and this is in Watford. So I don't know what kind of program that is. So I think it's also good for us to share that people are getting it and nothing is happening. Last comment from Dr. K, please. Dr. K, last comment. Dr. K, last comment. Dr. K, last comment. Dr. K, last comment.
I think she's having issues with her air, what she's using to hear.
Okay, all
So
right.
she can't.
Dr. K, can you hear us?
Yeah. No.
Okay, all right.
My thing's gone off.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
We can hear you, Doctor. Just go
Yeah,
on.
sorry, my speaker's gone off.
But we
We
can
can hear you now. Just one last thing to. Do you want to say make one last comment and then we're out of here?
Yeah. Sorry about that. I had trouble with my speaker went off. Yeah. I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone. We do appreciate your time. I think you're hungry for knowledge. You want to know, you want to make informed decisions. And that's why you decided to join the program today. So I'm hoping we have shared enough information for you to ponder upon and to make the right decisions. And I wish everyone a lovely day. Stay safe, wash your hands, put on your face mask, and social distance whenever necessary. God bless you all.
Okay, thank you so much. I was trying to unmute Flo. Flo, you want to say something about the recording? And thank you, everyone. Last comment from Flo.
Well, thanks, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for staying with us for this long. A couple of people have asked about having a replay of this. If you do want that replay, could you just send a message to Sam or myself? My email is flo@gmail.com. We also have a Bedford Niger Facebook page. Sam, what's the name of that? Is it just Bedford Niger? So this is
Bedford
hosted
Niger.
for people who don't know. This whole event has been hosted by Bedford Niger. Bedford Niger is a group. We call ourselves Bedford Niger. It's Nigerians in Bedford. It's a community. We just come together as a family, and we have put together this event again just to help us all have the understanding of this topic. So there is a Facebook group, a Facebook page that you can post that on. If you're part of the Bedford Niger group, obviously you can send your message to Sam or myself. If you're not part of that group, you can send an email to me, flo@deroju@gmail.com. I'll put that on, or to Sam. I mean, I know some of you know either one of us, and you can send a message. And Dr. K has obviously put her handle at Healing G Zone. Am I right? Healing G Zone, yeah, Dr. K?
Yeah.
And Dr. Linus put up a survey. Please fill in a survey so that we can, know what to do better next time. And as Sam has said, we will probably be having something else to cover all the questions. Apologies that all the questions was just impossible to answer all questions today, but thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a blessed week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless.
Thank you.
And take your vaccines.